Dear ladies and gentlemen, welcome to our sample lesson. My name is Milan and I'm here with Nicoletta. We are ADI, Academy of Digital Industries, and we are launching the courses in digital skills. We are a new players on the market with an international experience. We are focusing on getting experts in a field who work with us during the classes to create a real output, real projects. After completing the course, you will have a portfolio of projects that you can apply in your job or personal life. For each course, we are offering a sample demo session that you are seeing today. This is meant to set the expectation. You'll get to know the lecturer before the course. And here, this is for the course UX Design Essentials course. The scheduled date is from 7th of July until the 17th of July. There's going to be 6 workshops, Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. Ladies and gentlemen, for this, let's say, for these 14 hours, the price is discounted at 10,000, and I believe that you're going to get an amazing deal out of it, working on your projects and looking back to your portfolio. Here, you can see the QR code, and with that, if you copy, I will also put here in the discussion, in the chat, the link. You can get contact to our free consultation with our course consultants, and they will be able to help you with the course selection. Lastly, the demo is being recorded, and the recording is being sent tomorrow. And to the house rules, during the conversation, during the presentation, you can ask the questions in the chat, and they will be reviewed over the course, and there will be also Q&A in the very end. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is for the starting, and here I would like to give a floor to Nicoletta to present the masterclass. Enjoy, ladies and gentlemen.
Hello, everyone. Just give me a second, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Great, I think you should see it. So welcome to this masterclass today, this sample class, where I will give you an introduction first now about myself, so you get to know me, and then we will understand more what we'll be doing during the course that we start in July. And then I will give you some examples of what a UX designer does, some examples of good and bad UX. And then we can also see some resources that I will share with you. So about myself, in a few words, I'm a UX and product designer. So also the definition of these two words, it's very varied a lot from company to company, but UX is what encompasses the whole user experience of a product. That could also be a website, a mobile application. It can also be something physical. So it's very broad, and sometimes product design is more strict to when you work on a specific product. And currently, I'm leading the design direction for the websites of a company that is called User-Centrics. I'm working from Prague. And what I specialize in my career and at the moment is user research. So we will also see some user research methodologies in the course. UI, because UI is part of the user experience. I also have experience with design systems that I've created a few, and also one recently for the website. And I'm also very passionate about information architecture. That is also something that we will take a look at. Very briefly, just to make you understand like my career and how I got to where I am right now. Initially, after a degree in graphic design, like during the university, I studied a lot of different things, and not specifically UX, because it was a few years ago, and still there wasn't a bachelor degree where you could get a specific specialization in user experience, and there were even so many jobs dedicated to that. So I got in the UX with time and with work, but at the beginning I was working more as a graphic designer, and I experienced different things. First, I started with things that were more physical, like packaging design, and then quickly I moved to websites, which is what I like the most. This is a website for a famous Italian water brand. And as you can see, it's from many years ago. So you can see how the designs and the technologies change through time. Then I worked for international companies like UNICEF, some startups from the Silicon Valley, where I also started designing products. Then I worked for a national Italian bank where I redesigned their mobile application. Then I worked for one of the biggest companies, which is Nestlé, where I changed again my focus because I was working for internal products for the employees. And here I'm adding a wireframe instead of a final product, just to make you understand that this is also an important part of the work, and also was a very important part of this project. Way more of the research that was done before, more than the final product. Then when I moved to Prague, I started working for Avast, that you probably all know, that then merged into Norton. So many things changed while I was there. And initially I was working for a browser extension, a sort of a password manager. And then we moved to a digital wallet, a mobile application for this brand called Mighty that you can find online. There's still the website available where you can discover more about this digital identity product. And then recently, last year, still in Prague, I moved to another company that is called User-Centrics, where again, I moved focus after many years not working on websites anymore. Now I'm working under the marketing department and I'm working on websites. So besides make you learn more about myself, I think this is also useful to make you understand that as a UX designer, you can focus on different things. As a person, you can decide that you have a specific interest in an industry or on specific devices. So maybe you just want to work in banking and mobile applications. But if you have interest in different things, you can see how UX designers can have different focuses, because what we're going to see today and during the class is more ways of thinking and methodologies that you can apply in different industries and for different types of products. So potentially you can do it, then it's more what you prefer to do. Now, more details about the course. So Milan already told you that it lasts 2 weeks, and also that at the end you will have a portfolio ready project, because we're going to work together in creating something that in the end applies to real life. It's going to be a real product. And then you can already apply these methodologies, collaborate with other people. And if you're interested in pursuing a career as a UX designer, a portfolio showing what you're able to do and what you learned, it's mandatory to be able to apply for a position, so you can put this project in your portfolio. Some more details, it's that since it's called like Essentials of UX Design, is for people that are entry level in UX, UI, product design, or maybe you don't even have any experience, but you are an aspirant designer. Maybe you heard about UX because it's something that now it's more known compared to many years ago. So maybe you're curious and you would like to pursue this career. This is like a good starting point, because we will learn about some of the basic methodologies and processes. What is very important is that you will learn some of the most important skills for a UX designer. So how to build empathy with users and also with other people that you work with, how to be able to define problems in the right way so that then you can ideate on solutions. And then, as we said already, you can apply learnings to real life projects. We're going to work in groups, so depending on how many people then will join the course, we will see, but there are different reasons that we're going to see in a minute why it makes more sense to collaborate as a team versus working alone, because it's not what designers usually do. And then, of course, there's also myself as a mentor that can give you feedback based on my experience. These are more details about the course. So you can see that it's 7 hours split in 3 days per week. And in the beginning, of course, like you can see from these icons, it's either presentation, lesson, or practical activity. The first day we need to get each other, and of course I need to give you some background to be able to start. Then we will see that from the next days it will be more practical, but I will need to introduce the course to the people that maybe weren't here, explain what we're going to do, what are the goals and the objectives of the course, explain better the role of the UX designer that we're going to see briefly today as well. and then need to introduce some of the processes and frameworks that we need to use. Otherwise, if I don't give you some of the theory, then of course you won't be able to apply it. But in general, what we want to do, it's a course that is more practical for you to really apply what I'm going to share with you. So of course, then I'm always going to share more resources. So if in your own time, even from a day to the other, you have more time to explore and maybe read the resources that I gave to you, you can spend more time for the theory out of the class, and then you can practice more and maybe ask for feedback to your peers and to myself during the class. Here, as I was saying, a few reasons, like the first that came to my mind, but maybe you can also think of other ones, and if you do, you can put them in the chat. Why it's very important to work in group. I don't want you to create a project, just each of you by yourself, because design is collaborative by nature. So as a designer, you never work by yourself. Even if you are a freelancer that doesn't work in a team, you will collaborate with your clients that probably are part of a company and are a team. And so there are these that I could think some of the main reasons why for me it's important that we will do this course in groups. First of all, diversity. So if you collaborate with other people, better ideas emerge from people that have different backgrounds and think in a different way. Then already collaborating with other people will force you to be able to articulate your thinking, your decisions, and maybe even defend your thoughts in a way that you need to be able to explain why you think something can work better in a way or another, because then it's something that you will need to apply when you will work with clients or stakeholders that maybe will think in a different way from you, and you need to be able to bring your vision to the table. Since we are going to try to make it as real as possible to a designer job, what I do in everyday life, but of course we are going to work just with ourselves. We're not going to have a real client or a real company or other team, other people from other teams as I usually collaborate with. The fact that you're working with other peers from your group adds already this layer of a sort of a simulation with how you would work with other clients or stakeholders in real life. And then it's also important to understand how others think and work, watching them, how they formulate their thoughts and how they work. Because as I said, it's a very important skill for a designer, empathy, that you usually apply more when you watch how users behave. But it's also important to start creating it, understanding your peers, how they work and how they think. Then after like the first day of introduction of all of this, and maybe I skipped it quickly, but during the first day, we will also select already, I'm saying a tool, because it could be whatever you prefer, a website, an app, or a product, but it needs to be done in group. So here already starts the collaboration with your peers. We're going to work on a real tool or product that you will select. So the first day, this will be selected, and then from the second day, we will start mapping out the experience of this tool. So let's imagine there is a website, an e-commerce that you use often. What do you think about this experience? Who do you think the people, the personas we say that use this product are? Maybe there is one main persona, but maybe there is another one. If it's an e-commerce, like a second-hand shop like Vinted that you probably all know, I can think about that maybe there are two main personas, one that is more looking to sell their products and the one that is looking to buy. Then the same person could be both, but we're not talking about single person, we're talking about behaviors as a persona. So these are the two main ones that I can think about, and maybe there is even a third one, more an admin, I don't know, someone else that I don't know, because I need to explore the product to understand more. But once you define these personas, who they are and what do they need to accomplish in the product, then you can understand better the experience of these personas that going through the product. What is that they first do? Where do they need to go? How do they go there? And maybe you can start understanding if there are some problems that they can encounter and start creating your assumptions. Sometimes we're going to see that I've added some like support that we can have from AI, because it's important, especially even I can talk about myself that I started design many years ago when, of course, none of these AI tools that pop out recently existed. As designers, we're also, I missed a letter here, sorry. We're always used to evolving technologies. So if I think about the tools that I used in my life as a designer, I started from many different tools like Adobe, there was Flash, it was Dreamweaver. Then we were designing websites in Photoshop because there wasn't anything else. Then things changed a lot with Sketch, and now with Figma that everyone is using. So we are already used to changing tools, adapting to new technologies. The tools themselves, they change a lot, and we always need to keep up with new features and how to use them. So now it's also very important to understand as designers, like many other professions, how to leverage AI. And of course, with the limitation of time that we have in the course, I will try to show you some of the ways that I'm currently using it. I tried many tools, and I can tell you now briefly in general that they are still not very much mature from a design point of view. So don't expect that you can design an experience with an AI tool. They are very, very immature at the moment for complex thinking, and still they cannot even far away replace a designer. But I still leverage it sometimes to help me and maybe go faster in some processes. So I think this moment, the initial definition of maybe the personas or the problems, it's something that we can leverage with tools like ChatGPT. So I can show you how I use them, and then you can also try to use them yourself to speed up the process. And then more details on when I say that you will go through the product and understand the experience and mapping out. There are different ways to do it, and these are some of the ways that maybe we will talk about during the course, and we will see how do you audit a product from a UX point of view. So you don't need to go there and saying, of course, I don't like the green, I would have done it blue. So we need to understand the reasons why things are done in a certain way, and we need to follow some principles, some design principles that have been defined by many researches that are available, and they usually follow the human mind and the thinking of human beings that doesn't change much with time, even if technologies changes. So first of all, we need to define the user's goals, as we were saying. Who are the personas and what do they need to do? Because how can you say that this flow works or doesn't work if you don't know, first of all, if this is the main flow that the users need to go through, and then if you don't know exactly what is, like how it works and what is that the people need to do there. So first of all, the part that we talked about users, who they are and what they need to do. Then there are some methodologies that we can use. An important thing to evaluate the user experience of a product. Sorry, unmute someone, or maybe Milan, if you can do it. We have some background noise. Evaluating the information architecture is this acronym, as we talked about it before. When I talked about myself, it's very important because it's what describes content, navigation, labeling of a system. So it's a big part of a product, and it's like the foundation of a product, the scaffolding on which a product stands. Without that, then you cannot have everything that you look at that is more visual. So is the navigation clear? Can I find what I want to find? Do I understand that label if I open a menu? So this is very important, because then you can add on it all the visuals that you want, making it look more like a brutalist design or a very minimal black and white. But if you don't have these foundations, people are not going to be able to accomplish their tasks. So this is something that you can start looking at it and evaluate when you audit a product. Then there are also some principles that have been written, and some of these, that is one of the most famous one about evaluating products. It's from, I think, more than 30 years ago. I think it's from the beginning of the 90s. I'm not prepared, so I'm not sure, but it's important to tell you that it's sold to make you understand what I was telling you before, that these heuristics have been defined based on human thinking. And this, even with the changing of technologies, that doesn't change. So some of these heuristics are, for example, that we need to clearly state an error. We will see some examples later. Trying to prevent users to committing errors. So if the design and the labeling and the content is done properly, I will commit as a user the less amount of errors as possible. But then if it happens that an error exists, show to me the error in a way that I understand how to recover from that error. So this is some of the examples of the heuristics. Then when we will share the recording, we will also share the slides. So you will also find many links here where you can already start learning more about some of these important foundations of UX. Then if you evaluate a product, it's also important to understand if it works properly cross-device, understanding also the differences and all the limitations from a mobile to a desktop. Then maybe if you have already some experience in design, you probably know that many products now are mobile first, but let's be careful about this because it depends on the product, on the industry. For example, right now I'm working for an industry that is B2B, and our website is way more visited on desktop than mobile, more than 80% of the traffic. Why is that? Because it's a product that people look for while they are in the office in front of a desktop. So we are still looking at the mobile experience, and it still needs to work perfectly. Even if it's a minority of users, it's still a huge number of people because we have a lot of traffic. But of course, the priority for us is desktop. So always important to consider all the devices, but let's not think that mobile first, it's valid for any type of product and industry. Then we need to evaluate all the details of the interaction in the UI. So is it clear when I hover on a button that the state changed? Is it clear that it's a CTA that is clickable? Where is it going to bring me because the label is clear or not? The content in general of the website, does it speak to me, the tone of voice that you're using it? Something that maybe I miss, like is it aligned with the brand of the company? So many of these details, and also one that is always been very important and is always more and more important is accessibility, especially now we just have the new European Accessibility Act that is being released. There are some standards that you can also find the link here, and everything that we do needs to be accessible for all the types of users. And of course, also another way how to audit that we will do during the course. So beside everything that you can do by yourself with your experience and with some psychological and design principles and guidelines like the accessibility guidelines, then it's always very, very important to test with users. The U in UX stands for user. So UX without users is just X. Then after you will have selected your product and you will start evaluating it and understand what works, what doesn't work, what are possible opportunities, we will move to the research part. And as I said, it's very important because it's very important, the user part. Again, here, we will try to make it as close to reality as possible. I'm not going to tell you that you're not going to have real users, because if you're able to find some users of this product, I'm just more than happy, but I'm not going to ask everyone to be able to do it. Maybe it's a product that you know some of your friends and family use, so maybe you can use them as users. Maybe you've decided to work on a product for the public transport in, let's say, Prague, if you live in Prague. So maybe you go out and you stop people in the metro and you will ask them to test what you're doing. So it's feasible, always thinking about the limitations of the time we have. I'm considering that we can use each other, the different groups. So if a group is going to work on a product, they can use another group as a user and test the product with. So first of all, before testing, you need to prepare the test, the script of the usability testing. And here again, I think it's a good point to leverage a tool like ChatGPT, because once you've defined what is in your product that you want to test, because you've defined who are the personas and which are the main tasks that you want to test. You can put all this information in ChatGPT and help them formulate a script, meaning writing a scenario, like you are a person that every day needs to get a train to go from here to there and you need to buy a ticket. How would you do it? So creating a scenario, creating the task in a certain way, and we will see some guidelines to do it. So always, every time you use AI in general, verify how much is correct, what is there. And the way to do it is for you to know what is the correct way. So it's very important when you create this script to create them in a way that you are not leading your users already towards a solution. You are not creating bias. So it's a very delicate part of user experience and something that requires a lot of experience before being able to do in the best way possible. But of course, with ChatGPT, it can help you, especially if maybe I usually work in English, and of course, it's not my native language, so maybe it can help you formulate sentences is an easier way if it's not your native language. So once you have the script ready, you will move to usability testing, and here I have short details. Of course, we can spend 5 days just talking about usability testing, which is also something I'm very passionate about and something that I do very often in my job because it's very important, very quick, very cheap. And it's an amazing way to discover things that you will never discover otherwise, if not involving the real people that use that product. As much as I think I know about something, I will never be the real user of that product. So I will never see the things as other thing. And then I'm just one person, and instead I test with more people. So some examples of what you can get from usability testing is that you will have a prototype or a real product. In our case, you will put in front of the users, and based on the script that you prepared and the questions that you asked them, and then it's more observation, so observing them growing through the task that you asked them to go through, you will discover some things that maybe work very well. That is also important to know, but mainly some pain points, problems, errors that they committed, so that you can think how to fix, or yes, things that they didn't get, how they were working, or even some opportunities that you discover because you got some feedback, maybe repeating from different users, and you think it could be a good opportunity maybe to change or to add some elements, some features in your product. And then, of course, you can see like the before and after. It's going to be the after is going to be what you're going to create after all the research you did and the feedback from the users. So here we move to the testing with the others and gathering feedback. And then after you do a usability testing, also a very important part is the analysis, documenting what is that you discovered. Of course, now we need to do it in the most agile way as possible because, again, with time, but then we won't even do like a huge test with a lot of users. So it's going to be even easier than to analyze. And the way to do it, again, we can leverage tool. I added both FigJam and Miro because like you can do it with both. We will need to understand the one we will use in the course. I think maybe it's going to be FigJam so that we will have access both to Figma for the wireframes and FigJam. But some example of a way to analyze the insights and also the preferred one for me, especially now with these tools adding some AI capabilities. It's with sticky note because for me it's more visual. There are other ways to do it. Also in spreadsheet, you can add like all the tasks and all the users and adding all the feedback that you got from the users. But for me, I don't know, it's more like a technical view and I struggle to do it, but each of us have a different mind, so we can all do it in the way we prefer. As I was saying, I like this sticky note way because I can visualize it better, and then you can do apply this methodology that is called affinity diagramming or affinity mapping. This is how I call it, but it's interchangeable, where you will have all the feedback, positive, negative opportunities from your users, and then you will group them together in clusters. So what does it mean? You will need to try to find patterns of things that are similar said by different users. And when you will see that it will create a pattern, we will put it together. And here, as an example with the sticky note with the different color, is to give them a title. So you will say, this is regarding the checkout, or this is regarding the visuals of the website. There are a few comments regarding the visuals, so I'm going to put it here. There are comments about the testimonials of the website. So many people said different things about testimonials. I'm going to create this cluster. It could be parts of the product. It could be that you cluster more in positive, negative. It depends from the patterns that you find. And then, again, an important part in working group is that you're going to do it all together. And then it's also possible to prioritize. And here in this image, they're going to show you something that is very common, that is called dot voting. Usually the dots are red, but we can do it in the way we prefer. We can also do it with stars or hearts. What do we think is more important to tackle right now? Maybe we discovered a lot of things, but we cannot do everything as for our course, because maybe we don't have time to do everything. But even in real life, as a person working in a company, in a real team, maybe you cannot design and develop 20 ideas in 1 week. So we need to first prioritize it. For us now, it's maybe more based on something that you discovered, you encountered in more users. But if you're able to do it, it's also based on what is more important for the business. Again, maybe you don't have exactly the business view during the course because you don't have a representative from the company, but maybe you can get your idea. I think like the checkout process is more important than maybe changing a photo in a page that is less visited, that many people said they don't like that photo. But what is more important? It's more important maybe to fix an error that they encountered in the checkout process and they weren't able to complete a purchase, rather than changing a photo. Both are important, but not equally important. So you could be able to prioritize knowing what are the main tasks of the users and what is the final goal of that business, that product, which is, if it's an e-commerce, is for people to purchase, right? And then the day 5, so we have our product, we tested it. Now we already have an idea from users what works and what doesn't work. And I think in your mind, when you start with the sticky notes already analyzing, you are already having some ideas of how you can change the design of the product. Of course, they're going to come. It's not during the analysis the moment where you need to do it. You need to evaluate what the user said. But now at day 5 is the time where you can start designing, writing down, sketching the way you prefer, opportunities of improvements from the problem that you discovered. We're going to see some basics of Figma, because as a UX designer, you will need for sure to use Figma every day. As I said before, the focus of a designer is not the tool, it's not Figma. It's important to be able to use it. I use it every day, so I think I know every single detail of the tool. But it's not the first thing, the most important thing you need to focus on. It's never the tool. The tool changes. The tool are just a tool. I don't know a synonym, but it's exactly like an instrument for you to use to apply what you know, and that you can apply with other instruments. Even if the tool changes, you're still going to have that knowledge and you're going to be able to apply it even with pen and paper. But we're going to see some basics. We won't have time, of course, a complete course of Figma. But if you want, you can sketch in Figma. If you want, you can start using pen and paper. Something that I think it's done always less and less, but especially because most of the teams, like myself, have been working for many years with people that are in other cities. So even if I go in an office, I work remotely with other people. So then it's more difficult maybe to share something that is pen and paper. You can do something anyway with Miro, FigJam. But then you can also start doing it in Figma and maybe evolving it in time in something that is more high fidelity. Since we're starting from existing products, you can use the existing design of the product. Of course, we're not doing a redesign project or a rebrand. So since the design is already there, maybe it's going to be easier to start from something that is existing and maybe just changing the parts where you discover the problems. And here again, I can maybe just show you, and again, I will give you way more resources, so I can give you also more names of tools that are available at this phase of the design, which are more AI tools for designers, not like ChatGPT that is used for everyone for many use cases, but there are some that are more specific for designing products. One that we can leverage when we want to create the final product that we want to put in the portfolio and also present to the others at the end is this one called Lovable. There is a no-code tool, so from even, of course, inputs directly in Lovable or from designs in Figma, you can create something that is already an interactive prototype or a website where everything is clickable and it looks like a real website without the need of a developer writing the code, because the code is already written automatically with these tools. So you can already take a look, maybe later if you're interested. We can try to use it, or I'm also going to show you basic ways of creating prototypes in Figma that I use very often to test prototypes of my products with users. If it's still not available online, of course, I use prototypes that I create myself, and some basic ways to create interactions so that users think that it's almost a real website is very easy. But with this no-code tool, it's really a website that you could put live. Like maybe other tools like Framer, Webflow are tools that can make people like designers and others that don't know code put websites live without the need of developers. So this is another tool that maybe, and similar ones that we could take a quick look just to understand more about the AI. And then there's the final day, the sixth one, where we just spend time in learning about what the others did. So it's two ways. First is always seeing what others did. I think it always open like your mind. You will see maybe how others approached similar problems in a completely different way, or maybe you saw how they worked on something that is very different from yours, and maybe you never thought about doing something like that. And it's also for yourself to be able to present what you did, because as I said before at the beginning in the decision or articulations, but also this part about presenting your work, it's something that you will need to learn to do and do very often, because every time, for example, I run some research, then I need to present it to my team. I need to be able to go through the methodology, what is that I did, why I did it, what is that I discovered, and what are my my suggestions at the end. So this is more details about the course. So I hope now you have better expectations. And during this presentation, we also saw already a lot of details about UX. But now just 2 or 3 slides to really clarify what is UX, because sometimes you are here exactly to understand more about the course and UX, but maybe sometimes there's still confusion for people that are not in the design business. What is UX? What is the difference with other designers? So as I said already before, UX is the whole experience. So it's the process of creating products that are relevant for users. As I said again, the U stands for user. And it's the entire process of designing a product, the initial part, the thinking, the research, all the aspects of the branding that you apply to the visuals, the UI, the usability of each function. So it encompasses really something very broad. And then part of the UX is to be able to measure the usability of a product. And usability also has a definition in the international standard 9241. So you also have a link there that it's every time updated. I hope I added the last one from 2020. But how do you measure usability? You measure it through effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction. And there are some ways as a designer to be able to measure the satisfaction of a product through a user. And maybe we can apply some of those during your usability testing, because there are some standardized questionnaires that you can give to the users during your test. And based on their answers, then you're able to evaluate how much they're satisfied with the experience of this product. And then it's also important to do it frequently through time. So you measure it now, but how is it going to be in 3 months, 6 months? Maybe you know that based on some industry standards or benchmarks, you will like to get a higher number. So then you put yourself at this target, you think about the improvements that, based on your assumptions, could improve the satisfaction, and based on what you discovered, looking at the users and based on their feedback, could make the experience better. You try to apply them as a designer, and then you measure again, and you will see if the satisfaction improved. And also effectiveness and efficiency, you can measure it with task success rate. So as we said, we're going to define some tasks that users need to accomplish. Again, the example for everyone of an e-commerce. I need to be able to put the product in the basket and finish the checkout. Am I able to do it? Task success. And how much time does it take for me to complete it? And maybe I know that the standard for similar websites, similar industries, it's 1 minute, and in my product, it's taking 5 minutes, and the success is also very low. Okay, let's take a look. What are the problems that the users encountered? And you see it in many different ways. We're just going to see usability testing, where we are in front of the users, but then you can also look at analytics. You can look at a moderated usability testing that you can do with way more users. So there is a word behind this. But as I said, we're going to just look at the basics. And then from here, whatever then you are more interested in, you can dig deeper. And then I think this is also very important, because there's still a lot of confusion between UX and UI. And still you can see roles for UX UI designer. So in theory, it doesn't make much sense, because as I said, UX, user experience, is already encompasses the whole experience, which UI is part of. So UI is a subset of UX. Then you can specialize as a UI designer, and I worked with amazing UI designers that they specialize more on the visual part and the interaction, more, maybe if you have more a technical background, we can say more the front end of the experience. But per se, if you are a UX designer, and as I show you in my experience, I still also do UI designer job, but I can call myself simply a UX designer, because it's implied that UI is also part of it. I don't know, there were any comments, Milan, or no, someone left. Sorry, I saw a message in the chat. And in the meantime, maybe I can just pause for 30 seconds if anyone wants to open the mic and ask anything from whatever I said now. And during the rest of the meeting, if you have any questions or feedback, you can just put it in the chat. So I will give you 30 seconds to think if you want to open it, and in the meantime, I will drink some water.
Yes, I have a question.
Yeah, great.
This course will only in English?
Yes, at the moment, the course that I'm taking, that I think is the only one about UX in Academy of Digital Industries, is just in English, because unfortunately, my level of Czech is never going to be at the level to be able to run it.
I have a question. If you show me, or this was first, or your work, you used like Blender or another 3D program or not in your work?
Yes, this was very far in time, maybe when I showed you this, but this is also, yes, some rendering that I did for when I was working on packaging, then maybe to be able to present to the team, stakeholders, what I was doing, and also to put it in the portfolio. I was creating these models in 3D, but I also like this, but I haven't been doing it in, as you can see, many years. So I guess also all those tools evolved, and I don't use them anymore. But I remember I used Cinema 4D, and then I used other ones, not Blender, but I don't even remember the other names right now. But yeah, I found it was very fun and interesting, but yeah, I don't do it anymore.
And in this job is often used like this 3D objects, give it in the Figma or something else, or no?
No, in general, I must say no, it's not part of a UX designer job. And now I think it's part of these next slides. We're going to see again more details about some of the things that a UX designer does. For sure, creating graphics and creating 3Ds, it's not a UX job. Then again, as a person, if you have more skills, if you're able to create videos, create 3Ds, and maybe you work in a small company and maybe they need a person that can do more, you can do it. But this is just yourself as a human being that have more skills. This is not part of a UX designer job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So again, then if you have anything, you can put it in the chat. And when I see that maybe there's someone asking, I can stop and read them. But now I can continue because I think exactly I have some examples of some things that are part or can be part of a UX designer job. And then again, it depends the company you work for, how big is the design team in the company? Are you the only one or there are 50 people? The more there are, usually the higher the UX maturity of a company is, and usually there are people who specialize more. So maybe you will have people that are just user researcher. They just focus on the research. They don't do anything else that is related to other, designs, even if it's low, high fidelity UI, because just research. People that just focus on UI. So it depends, but I'm going to show you different things because I think it can also be useful for you to know that this can part of UX, and maybe you can decide to specialize more in something that you find more interesting that I'm showing to you. This is, for example, a screenshot taken from the WISE design system, which is a very, very good one, done in a very nice way, documented very well. And this is something that a product designer, a UX designer does. And as I said, I did a few times in my life for different products, and I did recently for the one I'm working on. That is the way of creating and documenting how every single detail of the design works and functions with all the states and possible sizes, devices, and so on. So all the foundations of the design based on the brand. So which are the fonts that we use, typography, all the colors, which are all the components that are used in that system. So you can see some of the main ones here. How is the design of the checkbox in all the states? So how is it a checkbox selected, unselected, disabled, while I have active state on that checkbox, when there is an error, probably changes color and a message appears. So all these details. And then if you're interested, you can see this design system from WISE, as I said, or other famous one from Apple, Material, from Google, from IBM, Fluent. So there are many out there that are available for you to see. This is something that a UX designer can do. As I said before, depending on the size of the teams, there are some bigger design teams that have not just a person, but sometimes teams that are just working on the design system, like I'm sure in WISE, because otherwise one person would have never been able to create what they created. At the moment, for example, it's just myself working on the design system for my company, but it's way smaller. But this is something very interesting that has a lot of learning to be able to do. So this can be just a specialization. You can just do design systems because it's something that can take up your full day activity as a designer. Then again, maybe to clarify that it's not just final designs. So the work of a designer, because maybe this is one of the misconceptions of also the majority of the people that I work with, not in my team, maybe people from other teams, departments that are completely different from mine. I don't know, people from sales or finance. Maybe they think that design is just the nice things, the nice visuals, the nice colors that you put on the product or the website. But instead, I think I already showed you a lot more of what we're going to do in the course, but it's all the thinking that is behind. So for example, we also talked about information architecture before and the structure, the foundation of the product. This is an example that I found online from Headspace. The information architecture of a product is the base to be able to then have a good user experience of a product. How is the product structured and how are the things labeled is what will make it easier to use. And this is part of UX as well. Then we also talked about the persona that we're going to create during the course. Personas can be created in different ways with different methodologies. Now is also very much used jobs to be done, which is another framework, but the goal is always the same, to understand better who are the users that are going to use our product, or maybe that are already using our product, or that we want to use our product. So maybe we want to focus more on some users because are the ones that we want to acquire or get more as traffic in our product. And to do it, of course, it's a lot of research and also talking with them to understand what are their goals, their motivation, what is that they need to accomplish. And like the theory also of jobs to be done is, like I can give you a nice example. It's not like you need a drill, but you need a hole in your wall. So you have a job that you need to do, and then us as designers have the goal to give you like the possibility to accomplish that goal, so to reach your task in the most effective way. Then we discussed already a lot about usability testing. Here, of course, an example in person, which is very rare that happens right now. So you will probably perform it more remotely. And there are also a lot of tools available to be able to find users, because there are these tools like user testing is one of the most famous ones, that have a panel of millions of people that just signed up to this tool. And then you can find the right one for your product based on some criteria that you enter in the tools, that will get back with the right tools, because maybe you are working on a product for, I don't know, young people who go to clubs. So maybe you select a certain age in this tool. Maybe it's just for a specific geographical location. Maybe it's not an international tool, but it's just for Czech Republic. So maybe you just select a specific location, maybe a specific gender, if it is just for something specific for a gender or another. And then you can also administer some specific questions, and you will find the right users in these tools. And then you can perform the test remotely. Then still an example for why, is just because I had in mind, but it's also, I don't want you to think that it's just maybe boring diagrams and stuff and analyzing sticky notes. Of course, it's also the final nice looking product. And if you're more interested in your skills are more towards visual design, you can also do it as a UX designer. Maybe for these examples that I'm seeing here, it could be that these were done in collaboration with other designers. I imagine now this was static, these ones I found, but I imagine that these words with coin and this sort of a ribbon, they're probably animated and they look to be in 3D. So there was the question before, this was probably done in collaboration with other designers that specialize more in maybe motion design, 2D, 3D motion design. So again, part of collaboration. You could do it all by yourself if it's a tiny product. It's impossible that a product like Wise has been done by all just product designers, but there's all this collaboration with probably people that look into the design systems, people that look into the UI, people that look into all these animations, and they all collaborate together in creating one experience for the product. Then he said, here I have some examples of what is not. So also interesting to see the question about creating 3D rendering is not, but even this, that is an example of creating a brand identity. Maybe you will work for products that already have their brand identity because it's already been created. And if not, part of this, and also maybe to maintain an existing brand identity will be done by graphic designers, brand designers, and maybe there's going to be a brand and communication team in the company you will work for, and they are going to be the owner of the brand identity. As a UX designer, you need to know very well the brand identity because the experience of the users needs to be the same across different touch points. So the brand identity is the same. And for brands where this is done very well, I'm taking again the example of Wise. If you see an ad on the street, if you see maybe something popping up on the social media, if you go to their website, if you use their product, you recognize that it's the same brand because it follows the same brand identity. So you need to be able to know what a brand identity is, to know the guidelines, but you're not going to be the one creating it as a UX designer. And very often it's done also by external agencies if there's not an internal team. In here, again, an example of illustrations, graphic design, maybe even editorial design because it's done on a book. This is not something that a UX designer does. Very often, especially if you work on products like the one we saw or on websites where there are going to be a lot of visuals, you're probably going to collaborate with the digital graphic designers who are going to help you with those visuals, like currently I'm doing. I have my colleague that is a visual designer that created all the illustrations for the website, while I take care more about the understanding of the users, improving the flows, improving the UX metrics, and so on. Okay, if we don't have any questions about this part, I have some examples here. As we were saying in the course, what we're going to do is first select a product. So here I'm giving an example of myself going through, I don't know if you can hear the music, but I recorded this video with some music in the background, but it's just for the slide. I went through a product that I used a few times, not very often, and I was logged out. I already had an account and I needed to log in. And I found this experience not very good from my point of view as a user. So I read, log in, and then when I click it, it looks like I see a similar screen. What I was expecting as a user, like I don't want to register, I want to log in. I was expecting login to show me a login field, an input for my email. This is what I'm used to. And instead, for me, it was very hidden because the screen from clicking login to the next one changed very slightly, and they moved the login up when before was down. So I needed to do a double click, and then once I clicked login with email, I was able to enter my email. So also very important, we talked about standards, best practices. We talked about the heuristics, other things that I will share with you. There are some best practices and flows and things that already been done many times by other products, and to copy is the best thing sometimes because some things are already been tested and they work and users are used to it. This is the most important reason. If users are used to seeing the logo of a website on the left and the login sign up on the top right, it's a pattern, it's a standard. And if you try to be experimental and to do it in a different way, you're going to create a struggle for your users because some patterns should remain the same because users are used to them. Did they change in time? Yes, they cannot change one day, and then usually there are like the bigger companies that create these changes. If you work for a smaller brand, you cannot think that you can experiment and do something completely different and your users are going to have a good experience. Patterns can change, but in time, and usually it's just Microsoft, Google, and Apple that create with time new patterns that then we get used to it, and then other websites and products can adapt. Why to make a login process so difficult? I don't see a reason, and I think this can be improved. And then we can look at main examples from other websites, but one that I find very nice and very well done from a user point of view is the one from Walmart. So if I go, again, top right, which is absolutely good, and I want to sign in, they have one button, so only one click to sign in or create an account. And then how do they know if I need to sign in or create an account? I first enter either my phone number or email, whatever I use to create an account in the first place. And then if they know this email, they let me continue with a sign in because they know my email is already in the system. And instead, if they see that email never existed before, they will bring me to the account creation. So very easy, and they don't make me think as a user, which is also a title of a very famous book about UX. Don't make me think. I don't need to think. I need to use either common patterns or you do the job for me. You need to make it as easy as possible for the users, but also because the users are going to abandon this flow. If I'm not able to create an account to purchase on your website, I'm going to abandon. So it's not a problem for me because I'm going to go to another product. Is a product for you as a company because you will lose user base. Then I'm going to show with you other examples. And again, this is maybe products that you can already decide that are the ones we're going to use during the course. But these are just very recent experience that I was having while preparing for this course. Because then when you start knowing these things and when you work in the sector, you see like usability problems everywhere. Even in real life, especially one of the biggest one is opening the doors left to right, pushing, pulling, messages that are put in the right place with the wrong place with the wrong wording. So you see usability problems everywhere, but especially in the digital world because it's the one that I have more experience in as a designer. I wanted to upgrade to Figma. I don't know if it's like premium. I don't even see it here. How is it called? But in the first screen where I wanted to upgrade, I already noticed a problem. I have two emails connected to Figma. One is my personal one that ends with Gmail, and one is the one with the company domain. But both start with name.surname. So here, and sometimes it's difficult for me to understand in Figma in the browser to which account I'm connected to because I can switch, like maybe like you do in Google, in Chrome. If you have more accounts, you can switch between one and the other. So here, I wasn't able to understand if I was upgrading the right one, which was my personal one, the one I wanted to upgrade. Why is this email, which is one of the most important things that I want to see here, beside the price that I already saw on the website, cut like this with ellipses? First of all, I see a lot of space. So why is this done like that? And then I was trying to click, hover on it. It was a very important information that I wasn't able to get. So in the end, I had to continue. And in the end, I discovered that it was the right one. But this was a big usability problem for me. And this is also a design tool. Then we talked about errors before. So I'm going to give you an example, a bad example of error messages, which, as I told you, like trying to avoid users committing errors in a way that you use the right label maybe in the field or apply, I don't know, other type of patterns so that you try to avoid as much as possible user committing errors. But then, as I said, another heuristic is also to making me able to recover from errors. And here, as part of the fields that I was required to enter to be able to upgrade to the plan, was also optional, of course, but to add, let's call it ICO in Czech Republic, so my VAT ID. First of all, okay, I understand maybe it's not localized, where maybe it could, because for a person in Czech Republic, maybe this is not clear since it has a specific name in Czech Republic. It could have been even better. So to avoid the error, to maybe be able to localize it based on my location and call it in the local way. But then I couldn't understand the problem. And it's again about localization, because this is how I'm used to enter my trade license number. But then I couldn't understand the problem. Why is this an error? And this error message is very wrong, because it's just telling me that this is invalid, but it's not telling me how to fix it. And an important principle is for me to be able to recover. And if you just tell me this is wrong, I can already see it, maybe because it's red or maybe because I cannot continue. But you need to tell me how to fix it. So I also tried with the info icon here, which is not giving me any information that was good for me. So let's say that I don't know how. In the end, I tried something different. That is to remove it. In the end, I was saying, okay, I'm not going to use it, I'm going to remove it. And in this placeholder here, I could see an example. And now that I see it, I also see that it looks like it's localized because it starts with the CZ. So I don't know why they didn't localize as well the label. But this was hidden because the placeholder disappeared the moment that I entered the number, and I didn't notice it before, because as a user, you don't read everything. And when it's all the others were personal fields, name, address, and so on. So you go very fast on them. And many users, not myself, but many users use autofill from the browser. So maybe all of it would have been pre-filled and no one looks at a placeholder that disappears. So this is very bad from a UX point of view. If it's an important information, it shouldn't be put in a placeholder that disappears once you filled it. So maybe this was something that it could have been put in the label. Maybe I would have used this info for this, but especially this error message should have been rephrased in a way that was going to help me fix the problem. Then once I was able, now you see that the VAT number is entered correctly, hidden some personal information, but you can see that everything is there. Then I was clicking next, the CTA highlighted that I can see here, and nothing was happening. No feedback, no loading, nothing. So still very bad. Another important design principle is to give feedback to the users of what is happening. And again, I was ready to abandon. So they were lucky because in the end I didn't abandon, but this is an example of how users abandon, and users abandon very, very often. We are our bar of the user experience through the years raised so higher as users of products that we use every day, that it's not okay anymore to commit these errors, because users abandon and they go to another product. But in the end, I tried to scroll up and down, and now I was lower in the page because my last field was this one. But when I scrolled a little bit up, I could see that there was an error, but it was hidden because I was scrolling down. And which is enter a valid province region. So which is also something that I usually don't do, because I just entered the city and the country in Czech Republic. So I don't even remember what I entered, if I entered again Prague. But the error anyway was hidden. It wasn't even highlighted in the missing field. So very bad. I should have received the feedback as a user. So these are examples of things that you will do during the course. You will go into the products and you will notice these experiences, and you will see if you think are good or bad. This is something that it looks from the 90s. It probably is, but it's still like this right now. Craigslist, probably one of the most visited websites in the US for sure, maybe in other countries. Which I really don't understand how it's possible that it still looks like this. But this is a screenshot, an entire screenshot of a screen that I tried to resize. And as you can see, the website is not responsive to different screen sizes, so the content simply gets cut. So if you resize the screen, you won't see half of the content that is there. Of course, really bad experience. Everything we do needs to work in the proper way in all operating systems, screen sizes, and so on. Then I got another example of different things, error message, I think. Let's see. Here I was just going through an account creation just for the purpose of like testing for the course. So I just entered something random, very quick. And I also entered I think this was the date of the day I did it. So it was the first date that I saw when I opened the calendar. So I just click continue and I got an error. But again, the error is, oops, please use a valid age to sign up. So I'm going to read it to you because it's half hidden. But what is a valid age? How do I know the criteria for a valid age? So you're not telling me. So it seems like they're doing a little bit better than the previous one because they're not just telling me the date is invalid, but they're not telling me anyway how to fix it because I don't know what a valid age is. And here again, I try to open the info tooltip. But it's just telling me that they're going to require a birth date and then that they won't share this information. So just an info on why they asked for a birth date, but not anything to help me understand that I need to fix it. Then I thought maybe I need to be, I don't know, 18 plus, but I'm not sure. Maybe it could have been 21, I don't know. So I added another date and in the end it worked. But then something even stranger happened. So I entered the first two fields, then the birthday was correct. And when I click continue, now they give me the error about the password, which they didn't check before, but only after I click continue. So again, I'm blocked by the password that is too short. Also, another common pattern, again, copy from the others and from common patterns that work. It's very common for passwords field to have as a tooltip, or the one that I prefer even more, make appear on the side or underneath. The moment you activate the input, the criteria appear, and even better when they appear dynamically with green checkboxes. Once you start entering the right length, minimum length of 8 characters, check done. Use at least one special character, check done when you enter it. So while I'm typing, I can already see if the criteria are met. Again, usability heuristic. Try to avoid users to commit errors and then make them able to recover. Here, they didn't do none of the two. Then here, I wanted to show you an example of a website that uses a navigation that I don't think is very common for e-commerce, but they also have a pretty specific way of displaying their products. So it's not a standard e-commerce like, I don't know, maybe you know ASOS or Zalando, maybe it's very much used, where you have like a lot of content displayed in the page. Zara is like more minimal and is pointing more towards like, yes, this minimal black and white and huge photography. But the way this menu is displayed, it's something that for me, it's interesting. Then you can see the link is still live like there right now. It appears on click of this icon. Otherwise, you don't have anything else on the page. While it's very common already having a first level of choice on e-commerce, so that it makes it easier because there are a lot of categories. So here I need to open it. It opens on the side. It's also not very much visible. Now for you, if you see the screenshot, do you understand where the menu starts and finishes? So they don't use any visual clue, like some borders or some shadows. And it's also pretty difficult to navigate from my point of view because you can scroll both horizontally through the different categories. And right now, I think there's also like a 50th anniversary of the brand, so it's even more categories. And then you can also scroll vertically to see the different categories, which are also like, I don't know, simply seeing some text like this, it makes it more difficult than other websites that I saw that maybe use icons to help you understand the differences between the categories, maybe on hover already display you a sample of those products. So I think there are different ways, and in my opinion, better ways to do a complex menu for an e-commerce. But it's, again, first do your research, find the best patterns, also read research about other products that maybe already try different patterns and can already share the results. But in the end, it needs to go to the users of this product. Could it be that the users of this website are very different from the users of Zalando? Maybe the type of people that buy those products could be the same, but maybe it's not the same that people that buy online on Zara. Maybe it's for a different target of users and they prefer more this type of patterns and design. So it's never like a personal opinion, but it's starting from principles and experience, but then we need to understand who are the final users of these products. And then here I'm showing you a super bad example of a website that shouldn't have these bad examples because it's a very famous brand. It's Lipton. And I noticed, like, very, very quickly, just opening the website, some things that go very much against accessibility. And then we talk briefly about accessibility, but I want you to understand the importance of it. We're not talking about a minority of people with disabilities that maybe you think will never use your product. We're talking about, depending on the traffic or your website, but it's probably thousands or hundreds of thousands of people that have different disabilities that maybe you don't even think about. And some disabilities are temporary. Maybe it's someone that just got into an accident and now can just see from one eye because, I don't know, they got punched in the other eye. Maybe it's someone that fell from the stairs. Maybe it's contextual, because maybe I'm on your website right now, but I need subtitles to watch your video because I'm in a bar and there's noise. So there's contextual, there's temporary disabilities. So you don't need to think only of people on wheelchair, but you need to think about different categories of disabilities and also different types of disabilities, because the one that people usually focus on more is just the visual part. That is also the one that I'm showing you here, because it's the one that it's easier also for me to notice when errors are committed. But there are also other disabilities that are more connected more to neurological level, auditory level, movement. So, and also depends on your product. Is your product, I don't know, a product, maybe even a physical product that requires movement? Maybe you're working for, I don't know, in the automotive industries. So, and you are designing like the screens for the automotive industry. So also motion is connected to the use of that product, which anyway is also connected to the use of a website if you need to use a trackpad or a mouse. So I can also share more resources about this if you're interested, but it's something that, beside legal requirements and huge fines that company get and not following these guidelines, it's also something that will share with the outside and the users about your culture, how much you care about inclusivity, and also about all the users that will visit your website. So here, in the meantime, I hope you spotted some very bad practices about usability, because I can see like this lens icon, white on yellow, almost impossible to be seen. And I also see an icon here. Why is this icon not black as the label, but they made it white on a yellow background? So very difficult to spot. And then also all these checkboxes, I think they are here. Don't you think they look disabled? To me, they do. Why are these light gray? And instead, you can select them, because I tried to select the green tea, and as you can see, the filtered word. So they weren't disabled, and even the ones selected didn't become like with more contrast, so I would have done it black. So this is both very bad from a usability point of view, because users could think that maybe none of these filters are available, so I cannot click them because they look disabled. And then from an accessibility point of view, many of your users are never going to be able to see these labels. Just let me check. Okay. We have 10 minutes. I'm going very fast through the last part, where then I'm going to share with you 3 questions to see if you can, from like a context that I'm going to give you, if you will give me as an answer the right UX methodology that you would apply to like understand that context. So just going quickly through some slides, and then again, this is a screenshot, a slide that I got from NNG, Nissan and Norma Group. You will have the link at the end with all the resources, like the Bible for UX designer, whatever. If you look for processes, methodologies, all the research that they do, you go there. They also do trainings and so on at a high level. More for people with already years of experience in the profession to be more specialized. But it's a website that is very important for you to visit for all this information. And this slide is very nice because they are mapping the most common methodology that UX designers use, and they are mapped in this graph that it's in this matrix that is divided in behavioral and attitudinal, and the difference is between what people say and what people do. So if I ran an interview, I will listen to what the people are telling me, which is very important, and you do things for different reasons, but people are never going to tell you exactly what they do. So that's why it's important to apply different methodologies and do a sort of a triangulation. It's important for me to observe you and listen to you, to what you say, your feedback, but then to also look at what you actually do. For example, with analytics, maybe you know Google Analytics. So what is a contextual inquiry, for example, is when researchers and participants collaborate in the same environment. So if I need to see how, as I was saying before, maybe a screen in a car works, I will probably go inside the car with the person that is driving, and I will see how they interact with that product, and I will do this contextual inquiry. Analytics, instead, as I said, with different tools, there's also Amplitude is a tool that I use, is to collect actual data from the users of your actual product that is live. Then other examples of methodologies that you will apply a lot as UX designer is interviews. As I was saying, maybe this is easy to understand and you can do it in different phases for different reasons, but more or less is one-to-one discussing about some topics, and mainly at a high level, more at a discovery phase with your users. Survey, instead, it's something that also, as you can see, it's in the other quadrant. That is the difference with qualitative, so something that you do directly and usually with less people. So I'm going to do an interview with you one-to-one, and a survey, I'm going to send it to you. You're going to do it in your own time, and usually it's also with more people, more quantitative, and it can be close-ended and open questions that I ask to you to maybe learn more about some specific experience. Then we already talked a lot about usability testing, and they can be here they say remote. Now, as I said, the majority of the time I do them remote, but then I still do them moderated. That it means that at the same time I'm in a call with a person, like an interview, but I ask them to perform some task on the product, what we're going to do during the course. Unmoderated, instead, it's also something that I do, and you do it in a different phase of the design with another scope, and usually with more people. That's why it's quantitative. You send the script to the users, and you need some of those platforms that I talked about, like user testing, and they will perform the test. They will go through the task, they will speak out loud, they will be recorded, and then you will see what happened afterward. Afterward, you can read the transcript, and you can see if they were able to get to the specific maybe page or accomplish that specific task later. And this is more done to evaluate the specific metrics and the experience of your product with time, while moderated usually is more performed as a quick way to evaluate something before you develop it. Card sorting and tree testing are two very important methodologies that are applied during the definition of the information architecture that we discussed before. Card sorting is really easy to understand because it's really done with cards. In the past, also more with physical cards. Now there are many tools that you can use to show these cards to the users and see how they will create patterns based on the way they think. And tree testing instead is seeing if they find what they look for in a tree that you need to think is like a menu of the different items. And if I tell you that you need to find trousers, where do you find them in this tree? A/B testing instead is also something that sometimes is misunderstood, with something that you can do to understand if a design A or B works better before developing it. Instead, it's comparing two versions of a live product or web page that you put in production. Now, very quickly, I need to go here to pass this question in the chat. Now that you saw some of these methodologies, if I ask you that you want to discover in which context people working in a factory are using softwares to operate their machines, which methodology would you apply? You can write your answer in the chat. Don't be scared, there is no right or wrong answer. No, no one? No one wants to try with one of the methodologies we saw today? Okay, I'm going to give you the answer. It's going to be contextual inquiry, because you probably will need to go into the factory and see how they operate. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult for you to understand their experience. So we just have 3 minutes, so I'm just going to share quickly, but those are things that you will do at your own time once you have the slides. I already have some resources here of books about different methodologies, some books about strategy, and also the book that I was mentioning, Don't Make Me Think. Some books if you are more interested about user research, some specifics for information architecture, and this one is about card sorting. This, I think it's something online, a PDF about benchmarking, so how to benchmark your product against industry standards or against your product in time and improve your UX metrics. Design systems that we talked about at the beginning, you can read more about them here. More books about UI design, some links about AI, and then, yeah, there are more also lovable, as I was discussing. I can always add more about this. Some websites like Energy, Smashing, Mobbing, where you can see examples of other products, Measuring You, more for research and inspiration of products and websites. And then some people that I think can be useful for you at the beginning to follow, because they share a lot about best practices, research, and Sarah Doody, for example, more about creating a CV, portfolio, finding a job. So they specialize in different things. Brad is the father of design systems, so also depending on what you're interested in, I think this is people that share a lot on websites and social media about their experience. So that's it from my side. I hope it was useful and you got a clear idea about the course and UX design in general.
Nicoletta, thank you very much for a great presentation. And now we have time for a question and answers, if there are some, for a couple of minutes. And of course, you can basically book a session with our consultant in order to find out whether this course is for you and to book it. I will put the link also into chat. And with that, I leave the floor for possible questions, if there are any. And with that, I thank you all for the attendance, and I wish you a lovely evening. I see there are no questions. So again, thank you very much, Nicoletta. It was great, and I wish you a lovely rest of the day. Goodbye.
Attending. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, and thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, bye.